Welcome to Ginny's, where East meets West, and a slice of Eastern philosophy becomes part of Western thinking. I'm your host, Ginny Gong. My guests for today's show are examples of the diversity in the Asian American community. Both are biracial with white mothers and Asian fathers. My first guest is the Executive Director of Asian American Lead, an organization featured in the 2013-14 catalog for philanthropy as one of the best small charities in the greater Washington region. A child of white American mother and a Sikh father from India, she has had to work to define her ethnic identity for herself. Her commitment to education and community building is exemplified in her previous work as Senior Project Manager for the Health Impact Fund, as Startup Director of Operations for Teach for India, and as a Project Manager with America Speaks. She has a master's degree in public policy from Harvard Kennedy School and is a 2014 National Asian Pacific American Women's Leadership Institute Fellow. Join me in welcoming Surjeet Ahluwalia. Welcome, Surjeet.
Thank you so much for having me, Ginny.
Well, you certainly have a most interesting background.
Thank you.
And from what I've read in our discussions, you are truly the ultimate salad bowl, right? I mean, let's talk about this background and how you have come to, think about yourself as in terms of your identity.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, had quite an evolution in terms of this. I think growing up, I really just felt that I was different. Okay. I was different from everyone around me. I grew up in a primarily white environment. I didn't really connect to the Asian community, to the Indian community. I just felt like I was different from everyone.
And were you born here in this country?
I was.
Okay.
I was born in New York City. Okay. And then when I was very small, we moved to New Jersey, to a small town.
Okay.
And when I went to college, things started to change because I was in a more diverse environment. And so I had to answer these questions of, your name is Indian, so don't you cook Indian food at home, and don't you go to the Gurdwara, and don't you speak Hindi or Punjabi, and having to figure that out. And then I actually moved to India for a year for work, and at that point, all of the pieces of my identity sort of came together, and I began to identify more as being Asian American and Indian American than I had in the past. I think I have a very Indian name. I was very proud of being part Indian, but I didn't connect with the culture in many ways because it just wasn't part of my experience growing up.
And I think, as any young person, you want to fit in.
Right.
So if you're in a basically white community, you want to be white. I mean, I know I was like that, and it didn't hit me until college days as well. Mm-hmm. And it actually really hit me when I became a parent.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because I that was when I felt how important is this identity for me. Mm-hmm. And for you, it was more around the high school, the college years.
Right. It was right around college when I was around people who were from a lot of different backgrounds. Right, and so suddenly it wasn't just a white environment. And my mom is white, a lot of my family is white, so it was part of my identity. But it was really trying to sort out what are both of these pieces? How does all of this fit together?
And now, I guess, another major step in your life, adding to your diversity. And what is that?
Yes, I just got married just 2 months ago now, so it's very new, but we've been together for 3.5 years, so we've been together for a while, and my husband is Black American.
Wow. So children down the line, what are they?
Right,
are they an atheist?
Right. We talk about this a lot because, I don't know if we will have children, but if we do, what does that mean for their identity?
Yeah.
And for me, having siblings was really helpful to me in terms of my ethnic identity because there were more of us. There were people that I could relate to that had my similar experience. So if we had one child, if we had multiple children, how does that differ? What does it matter when you're 1/4 Indian, when you're 1/4 white, and you're half Black? At what point does it change? And I think a lot of it is how you look, because that's how the world perceives you. A lot of it is your name, how people connect you to a culture, and then your experiences. Do you go up traveling to your home country, or your parents' home country, or your grandparents' home country? So I don't know what it means if we were to have a child, but it's definitely something we talk about all the time.
Yeah, I guess if people didn't know your name and they just saw you, they may not really know what ethnicity you are, right?
Right, and it's been an interesting experience recently where I've had people say, are you Asian? That they don't connect me as being Asian at all, and maybe part of that is because people don't connect India to being part of
true.
Asian American. But yeah, sometimes people see me and if they don't know my name, they don't see the Indian part of me.
Well, I think it's beautiful that you have all of this in your life.
Thank you.
Now, your whole career, you've gravitated towards humanitarian causes. Was there something in your life that sort of steered you in that direction?
Yeah, I think it was having parents from very different backgrounds. I knew from the beginning that people live life in very different ways, and that there are a lot of people who had much less than I did, that I grew up in a lot of relative privilege. So I think always knowing that made me feel like jobs are a choice for me. I'm not struggling to feed myself or my family, so why not try to do work that is making a difference for other people? And I really do attribute that to my parents. My mom was in the Peace Corps. She always volunteered. She really focused on giving back. And I think for my father, he really instilled in me that I can do whatever I want with my life and that I can make things happen. And so that combination steered me in that direction of trying to give back to people through my work.
Well, you were very lucky to have parents that, encourage this, because you can't even teach this to the next generation. You can't say, do good. I mean, one has to have it within them to want to be in these professions where you make a difference.
Right, and I don't know what the magic formula is, but all of my siblings feel that in some way.
Really?
They're not all doing nonprofit work, but thinking about how is my life having an influence on the world and how do I do more good with my life. So I think that they did something right.
Yeah, absolutely. So now doing good, leading you to the position you currently hold, which is Executive Director of Asian American Lead. So tell us about Asian American Lead. What is it?
Yes, Asian American Lead is a youth development organization, and we target low-income and underserved Asian Pacific American youth. We run after-school programs, summer programs, and mentoring programs, and we focus on educational empowerment, identity, and leadership. So identity are a lot of the issues that we were just talking about, figuring out how do you operate in this American context when maybe there's another culture happening at home, or when people have different expectations of you because of your identity. Because our target population are low-income students, they often don't have access to the educational resources that other students have. And because of the cultural gaps, don't have the skills or the parents who are able to help advocate for them.
They don't have the parents, like you might have had to sort of steer them in a direction. I would assume most of these parents are just surviving.
Exactly, working really long hours, struggling to make ends meet, not even if they want to interact with the school, don't know how American school systems work, how to read report cards, that there is a guidance counselor who is supposed to be helping your child. All of those things you only get to know from experience.
Right. So how does Asian AA Lead, I know that's what it's commonly called, how do what kind of programs are available for these kids and for the parents?
Right, so we do after-school programs, summer programs, and mentoring programs. And at the after-school programs, they're school-based programs. And so we do a lot of activities. In terms of educational empowerment, we really help our kids to understand what resources are available in the school, helping them to learn who their guidance counselors are, to get them to speak to their teachers and ask for the help that they need. We work with our parents to be able to have them understand AA Lead's role in the school, and that there are all of these resources available to them that we can help connect them to. We do programming in terms of cultural identity, learning about Asian Americans, learning about Asian cultures, and most of all, just to be proud of who you are, being comfortable with who you are, that it's okay. All of your sets of experiences, we're all different. We've had different experiences, and those are all valid experiences, and feel confident in those experiences. And then leadership skills. So we do a lot in terms of helping our kids to own the programs that they're part of. How do you make decisions around events that you want to see happen? What's going to benefit you in the future? How do you become a leader in the community?
Now, do you get some of the graduates come back and help the program?
We do. It's been such a great thing to see. We
Yeah.
actually had an event just a few days ago where we had a lot of our alumni come back, and they still feel connected. We've had some college panels, so where our students who are in college now coming back and telling the current high school students and middle school students what college is like and what things they should look out for. We've had some of our college students come back and serve as interns. We've had people who've graduated just come back and check on us. So it's great to be able to have this network of community members who are still connected to the organization.
But it's amazing how AA Lee has grown.
Yes.
You know, I have to go back many years. I remember when Sandy Dang, who had, started this, actually consulted with me and chatted with me about the possibility of branching off. And that was a long time ago. And I understand now you've got, 3 locations?
We have 3 locations now, yes. So the organization was founded in 1998, so it was a while ago. We were founded in DC, and we moved into Montgomery County in 2006. So that was also now many years ago. And then this year we launched in Fairfax County. So we're really excited about that to be a fully regional organization now.
And I guess there are significant Asian American, the population of students in these 3 areas is pretty high.
That's right, that's right. It's almost 14% in all 3 areas.
Right. Now, where does your funding come from? And what is your staffing structure? Because I would assume they're not all volunteers.
No, they're not. Volunteers are really important, but it's also important to have highly trained, highly qualified staff for these roles. So we are fortunate enough to have a very diversified budget. We get funding from DC government and from Montgomery County government, which support our programs, also from private foundations, from companies, and we have now a growing number of individuals who are supporting us and who've made multi-year pledges to support us, which is really, really helpful. We have 11 full-time staff.
Well, that's great.
Yeah, and 12 part-time staff. We have part-time staff at the elementary school level programs. And so when we have probably about 100 volunteers every year that are helping us in terms of our mentoring program, serving as mentors, also as program aides, workshops with our programs. We have a lot of volunteers, and of course our board is also all volunteer.
So let's talk about, an example of a youth that went through this program, Tell me about a story.
Sure, there's so many. It's always hard to pick one, but one story that comes to mind is actually a student who had a lot of struggles. His father was absent. He was really struggling in school. He eventually dropped out of school because he was just not able to stay and do what he needed to do, but he kept coming to AA Lead, and he actually, I saw this student just a couple of weeks ago. He's been out of the program now for a couple of years, but he reached out because he still sees AA Lead as part of his support network, which is really wonderful. And a couple of years ago when he was in the program, they did a video project, and he was talking about his staff person that he worked with most closely, saying that this person was like a father to him.
Made a difference.
It doesn't get better than that, for kids who are really struggling, to have people who they know will support them, will have their back, even when they're not succeeding, when they resist doing GED programs, when they resist staying in school, that they still have people who support them. So it's pretty powerful.
So interestingly, here is this organization that initially was founded to support Vietnamese students, low income, at risk, or at least Vietnamese students. And here you are, an Indian American serving as their executive director. Has that been a challenge at all for you or for the organization?
I would say it's been a bit of a challenge for me personally, not so much for the organization. So you mentioned Sandy Dang, our founder. When she founded the organization, I think she really had the intention that it would be broader, that it would serve Asian Americans more broadly. Now we're serving Asian Americans from 16 different Asian backgrounds. So it's a very diverse group. I've had people personally, as I mentioned, ask me, so are you Asian? And so that's a little bit awkward for me of having to justify why I'm in this role. But in terms of the organization, I think it's a really positive thing because it shows the diversity of the Asian community. We've had a Vietnamese executive director. The second executive director, Rosetta Lai, is Chinese American, and then now me. So it shows that Asian Americans are quite diverse and come from a lot of different backgrounds.
Well, you've certainly made a tremendous difference in the organization. Just as a quick final question, somebody wants to get involved, how can they do so?
We would love your involvement. Please look at www.aalead.org. You can volunteer with us, you can become a donor, you can get involved as a board member, or just help spread the word about us. I think a lot of people don't know that low-income Asian Americans exist in our community and that there's an organization specifically targeting their needs. So we would welcome support in any way possible.
Well, on that note, we wish you well and look forward to a lot of great things from you and from AA Lead.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
Thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Ginny.
It's time for us to take a short break. Stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
Packers. Viking. Packers. Viking. Viking.
Red state, blue state, vegan,
Carnivore.
We come from different places.
Uptown.
downtown,
Optimist.
We come to different conclusions.
Half empty.
half full.
But when we live united, we create real, lasting change in the building blocks of life. The education, income, and health of our communities,
Live.
our families,
United.
even the person next to us.
Live united.
Real change won't happen without you. So give, advocate, volunteer, live united. Sign up at liveunited.org.
In the small town of Elmira, New York, a boy was born into an all-American family. The odds of him achieving his dream in the fashion industry? 1 in 23 million. The odds of having a child diagnosed with autism? 1 in 110. I am Tommy Hilfiger, and my family is affected by autism. Learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Welcome back to Ginny's, where East meets West. My next guest is a high school student who has made a name for himself in tennis. At a young age, he has competed in local and state tournaments with accomplishments that include the Maryland State Champion Boys 12 and Under, USTA ranking in the Mid-Atlantic region for boys under 14 and 16, and mixed doubles champion for the last 2 years. The son of a New Zealand mother and a Chinese-American father, he comfortably addresses issues related to identity and his name. Join me in welcoming Bear Hunter Lee. Welcome, Bear. Now, let me make sure, Bear as in the animal?
Yes, yeah, that's right.
So through your life, have you had a lot of kidding about your name?
Yeah, the kids used to call me, they would make jokes about Bear Lee. He barely did it. Yeah.
Well, at least it's not Sue, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think you take it in great stride. You know, my guest before you, Surjeet Ahluwalia, talked a lot about her identity and her search for an identity because she's biracial. As a young teenager, has that entered your mind? Do you think about it at all? Do you see yourself as different?
Not really. I just kind of blend in, I guess. It's not really a huge, I'm proud to be biracial, but it's not a defining who I am too much.
So do you think people, when they see you, do they take a double take, or do you think, you know, they just consider you like everybody else?
Most people consider me to be white, because that's what I look like. Not too much, I don't look too Asian, but...
Well, what about you? Do you see yourself as more, you know, more Asian, more white, or do you, has it changed over time, or is it just?
I think it's the same. I've always identified as biracial. You know, I marked that on all the
you do that,
tests or whatever, formalized tests. Yeah.
You know what we call you in the culture? You're a hopper.
Yeah.
You're a half Asian Pacific American.
Yeah.
Well, I'd be interested in down the line as you age and go to school and whatnot, whether that changes, because as you heard from Surjeet, when she went to college was when she started to examine a little more of, who she is. So be interesting. Let's switch the topic and talk a little bit about this, sport that you are very passionate about, and that's tennis. Where did that interest come from?
My dad, he's really passionate about tennis.
Really passionate.
Yeah. So he got me on the court at an early age, and then.
At what early age?
At like 4. Yeah, super early.
So did you get a tennis rattle when you were?
Yeah.
You think so, right?
Yeah.
And so around 4 or 5, you had a tennis racket in your hand.
Yeah. And now I play at USTA Tennis Academy, and I'm doing well. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're on the school team. Okay.
Yeah.
What does it take to get to that level where you're winning tournaments? Because I know it's a very competitive sport.
You have to be your own self-coach, and you have to keep getting better every day, take privates, be willing to take sacrifices. I think maybe sacrifice free time and just,
So how often do you take lessons?
Every week on Sundays, and then I have clinics 4 times a week.
Okay, so it's almost like gearing up for Olympics,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I remember speaking to someone who was, working out to be a part of the Olympics. Get up early in the morning. Do you have to do that too?
Yeah, for my privates, get up early. Sometimes
wow.
they're at 8 a.m. Not too early. But
Okay.
Pretty.
So what are the skills that are needed to excel in this sport?
You have to be.
I mean, do you have to be smart, or is that not as critical? What do you need?
No, I think you do have to be smart. Tactically, you can't get too frustrated. You have to maintain your composure, be focused, and you have to have a game plan. And so it takes a bit of smarts.
Yeah. You have to be really disciplined, huh?
Disciplined, yeah.
Right. Are you?
Yeah, I think so.
You think so?
Yeah.
Okay. More disciplined in tennis than academics?
Yeah, a bit, yeah.
Well, I know for a fact that tennis is a sport that a lot of Asian Americans gravitate to. Do you find that to be the case?
Yeah,